that people, they each individual gets there on their own. That's the hard part.
I don't think you know what you're talking about, Chuck, to be honest. What Frank was discussing earlier about having the courage to sit with the sublime, to sit with the blissful, to sit with the perfection of God and all that is. I do that regularly.
And you mentioned something else that I think is important to recall as you go throughout your day, because it is a daily struggle. You're up against great obstacles. Is that each one of these and all the ones that have gone before is like the Lord, like Job. I'm not saying you're exactly like Job, but you have been suffering, and he remember too that I think in some way it is acting as a preparation for the future, because once you get into some of these elite circles, like the corruption and temptation is going to be extreme, and you've been showing day to day that you can resist and stay centered on the focus of uniting with God and bringing about these real tangible objectives. And it will be challenging, and it is challenging. Like right now, you're being faced with an ongoing, increasing challenge of, to some extent, what I think is like self-induced confusion, like choosing to be confused rather than accepting the message.
How many people here have experienced miracles besides me?
I have, but yeah, my plan, Frank,
I have as
is
well.
yeah. So my plan, Frank, is to just train my butt off until people just recognize me as the elite. That way I can kind of step out the equation.
Yeah, I think you're doing a good job, Hank, and I think you're headed in the right direction. But again, that's you're choosing self-aggrandizement and recognition
Yeah,
rather
or
than working
eliteness.
selflessly, which is that's okay for you. But that's not what Jack's up to, right?
Yes.
So
Well, I had to choose a different path because the selfless path didn't actually get and got us further away from ending the wars. So I tried the selfless path. It doesn't work for me, so I had to try a different path.
I understand that. Yeah, makes sense. But again, those
Truly, this
challenges, yeah, Jack, I'd like to hear your response on that, and reflecting and moving forward. And today, like, just to cleanse the energy, I always, in my daily life, I call upon the Lord, thy God, to bring us peace and salvation and succor and greater joy in life. And I think we all need a little more of that in Jesus' name, the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Thank you. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. And you know what? This conversation, sincerely, thank you. I know my path. I know what God has placed before me. I think I know. And what I believe is that I do need to become more graceful, more Christ like in my nature, especially if this is my path. And there's been a lot of people who've tested me, and my faith keeps growing because my faith keeps getting tested day after day. But I have
I
faith.
know I get up every morning and my prayer is it's a simple prayer. I just ask God to let me be a maximum use to him and to others. It's simple. I keep it simple and it seems to work.
Can I ask a question with that?
Yes.
Do you look for opportunities to do so
Well, it seems to me that the opportunities present themselves in my life.
through ideas? We
No,
can,
through connections with other people. In my own situation, if I'm at home, it just the opportunities present themselves, and it's up to me to either act or not act upon the opportunity. And I
Chuck,
just keep in
I got
mind, yeah,
Chuck,
go
I got a
ahead.
question for you, if I may. Like, what do you think you can learn from Jack while you're here, and what have you learned in the recent past from the transmission of his message and his behavior even today and right now in talking to you? Like, can you tell me some of the upshots that you've derived?
His belief, his faith in a power greater, God, whatever term you want to use. I don't want to make anybody upset. Like I said, it's an individual walk, but it's his commitment to the faith is what I always pick up on. Now, when we start getting into these tangents, is where it starts going sideways. Like somebody just put out a clip. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Jack, about you living in fear. And it's a recent clip, apparently.
Yeah, that's Ham
And that
Banana. I'll,
is that
I'll
who?
get Jack. Yeah, Ham Banana. I'll get Jack a link.
Okay,
Yes,
and it wasn't
Put that
altered. I don't
backstage if you
think
would.
was it
Hank.
Hank,
I'd like to see that.
but that was the true Jack showing in that clip. I do believe.
I think that's unfair treatment.
No.
You should never put- you
I
shouldn't
mean,
put-
he's
yeah,
not.
let me finish.
He's not
Can I
putting
respond
up
to that?
he's not putting up a facade or anything. That was the
Oh, okay,
real Jack,
Right.
is what I meant.
I got you. But, old energy, it's not necessarily the Jack of today or the Jack of tomorrow. We need to hope, that everything always moves
That's
forward.
not what I meant at all. You misunderstood the message I was trying to translate.
Okay, I'll have to see the clip. Yeah, you'll have to get us a link, Hank.
I'm working on it.
And
Well,
I don't.
Good man. I appreciate you. And Chuck, the other thing, I was wondering if you had learned that, like that moment ago when Jack was giving us his idea, he hadn't fully formulated it yet, but he took a short pause to reflect and gather his thoughts before he wanted to push forward. But you immediately jumped in and filled that gap. And I know that it's hard sometimes. People really fight against dead air, right? Like right now, you're even fighting.
I missed
dead air,
I missed
the
that.
opportunity to allow an idea to come to fruition. You missed it because you weren't necessarily listening to him. You were thinking about what you wanted to say next.
No, I was listening and I was just responding to what he said. And when the pause is long enough, I'm sorry, one would think that people are free to speak if there's a long enough
Yeah,
pause.
it wasn't long enough. He was just taking a breath. If you were following the stream of ideas, he was readying for the
Well,
next part
I'm
of it.
sorry, I'm driving and I'm not watching the screen, so I apologize if it come across that
Oh,
way.
yeah,
That's
it's
not
all right. I'm not accusing you of anything. I'm just saying
okay.
that's
That's
what I
not
felt.
what I meant at
That's what I
all.
was wondering
I
if you
apologize.
reflected on it. Yeah, no big deal. No worries, man.
I'm not trying to disrupt or down or destroy.
Much love.
I
I
mean-
might have misread it. I might be wrong.
Well, yeah, I'm not the most eloquent of speakers. I wish I was. I took many classes and went through many programs, and I am who I am. I mean, I can't change it. It's a pitfall of mine, I guess. And it gets in the way sometimes. It does get in the way. I don't care who I'm talking to. Sometimes it does get in the way. And I try to be aware and change the behavior. And it's not easy sometimes. If that made any sense to you, sir. Just like Hank. Hank gets misunderstood a lot sometimes. And you have to sit and listen for a message.
Chuck,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Wait. you did it again. I offered forth answers. You don't consider what I say. You start with a disagreement and then you run for miles. Your mind lacks presence. It's something you can certainly work on, please, because not paying attention creates this lack of understanding between us. Chuck, you asked a while ago if I was willing to change my plans. My plans are to serve the world in any ways that I can. My plan is to try and find a way to end wars. And I think for that to happen, it would require cooperation from other people obviously, and probably the people in elected positions in Washington, D.C. And if this is the land of equality, well, I want to exercise my fucking equality and get their attention and let them know it's time for some change. Hank, seriously, you think it's a good idea for me to play what Ham Banana clipped out and shared about me?
In this case, I do think so, but you don't have to. It is your show. But it was you, Gen X Jeff, saying you were kind of afraid to go and try and knock on people's door.
I
which
know
can
what it
understand.
is. I know
Yeah.
what it is. And this comes back to what Chuck brought up. Chuck brought it up. And Hank, to watch another channel, that clown Han Banana who wants to mock me and disrespect me, took a moment of honest vulnerability and wants to twist it around to show me in ways that I am not. And Chuck, you claim you saw my honesty and my authenticity for once. What you haven't figured out yet is I've never lied to you. Not once.
Excellent. So, are you going to go to the march over and knock on their doors?
I think it's important to reflect on the fact, remember too, Jack, like what Hank's up to. You know, he's engaging in sensationalism and journalism, and he has an agenda, and it doesn't necessarily coincide with your agenda.
I know, I want to
even though
endorse too.
He's here interacting with your agenda and trying to help you. I think he does try to help in some way, but the sensationalism he knows will drive his own numbers and drive maybe your numbers as well. And then keeping the loop going, you know, looping among these lesser entities that are seeking to throw mud at you is kind of a fun journalistic game. Yeah,
So
first and
you don't
foremost,
understand me whatsoever. I want to break the loops.
Let me finish. Can I finish? You seem to be journalistic in your nature, Hank. I mean, that seems to be what you're up to me.
Yes, I want to be journalistic in my nature, but I want to end the loops. I get tired of loops. I want to make some progress. And if we had to address our fears, then so
that's
be
not
it.
the actions you're taking, though. By sharing that and trying to get Jack to necessarily look at it or bringing it up in his panel, that's continuing the loop. It's not.
No, here's what I wanted him to do.
No,
if he has any fear of going over and knocking on the doors when he knows them, and I want him to live without fear and just go ahead and do it. That's what I want him to do.
But you got to think, is your suggestion appropriate? Are you creating a situation that will aid in the promulgation of what he's up to? Or are you just putting him into a scenario where, like, let me give you an example. There was a great Olympic coach for ping pong, and he had those people focus on and refine the attributes that they were best at, rather than trying to get them to go down rabbit holes that they weren't any good at. And he trained the most gold-winning ping pongists of all times, right? So are you training gold medal winners, or are you just throwing out things that are going to make people, if they're lucky, get a bronze?
So here's the thing. If my suggestion's not appropriate, then Jack's suggestion's also not appropriate because I'm mirroring back Jack's suggestion to me, live without fear. So if living without fear is not appropriate, then Jack's suggestion is also not appropriate.
Yeah, Hank's been fighting because Hank's autistic or whatever the word you want to use, but I've noticed that's the fight Hank's been trying to win on his own through different means and measures in order to achieve equality, for lack of a better word to call it, recognition, acceptance. I'm not sure, but I understand what Hank is doing. And if Hank was after numbers, Hank would be restreaming right now. Are you restreaming, Hank?
Negative. Just come and watch Jack's show.
Exactly. Thank you.
Well, I'm not making a qualitative judgment of Hank either. I'm just saying that I think that the actions aren't necessarily the end result that he's looking for.
Yes, and I'm saying that to Jack. So if my suggestion, which is a reflection of Jack's suggestion, is inappropriate, then Jack's suggestion is appropriate.
I think your hypothetical tie-in's a little off, though.
I disagree. I strongly disagree.
You've lost sight of the point of the discussion.
Well, technically, but it's because you don't want us to look at the point anymore because it's inconvenient, because you have some reservations. But you want me to do the thing you're unwilling to do because it will make things easier on you.
Hank, you're talking about you. You're revealing what's in you. That's not accurate of me. My words do not support what you're saying. My actions do not support what you're saying. So please realize there's a difference. Chuck, the same with you, my friend.
So
And
is that
in this
clip
case, I'll
wrong?
let the audience decide for themselves, and we'll revisit this later.
See, and the only reason I brought that clip up is I thought it showed the real, authentic your soul,
Thank you.
yourself.
Thank you, Chuck. It was. It was me being vulnerable.
Yes,
Realizing when I spoke the obvious contradiction it painted, because I know my message. But here I am. I have the awareness, and I admitted as a man speaking to a friend, friendly voices, that as a man, yeah, even me, I'm still challenged and I'm still working on this. I'm not perfect, never claimed to be. But Chuck, the point I made is you found the sincerity there, but you've been wrongfully calling me a liar for a long time.
when I've never called you a liar.
You have. You've called me the Antichrist. You said I'm a deceiver.
That was joking.
Chuck,
That was just a running joke.
those words came from you repeatedly.
I know. Yes.
You constantly brought my name up to diminish Jack Talcott.
Loose lips sink ships. And if you have a tendency to say things in jest that are hurtful, then just try to rein it in. You know, don't be hurtful. Don't try to vilify people. That's not the way forward.
But you
Thank
totally, Jack, you missed the point that I was pointing out to the clip. You expose yourself as a real
Right.
person.
Chuck, I do that every live stream. I'm not a character. I'm not misleading people. I'm not trying to deceive people. I'm being honest, forthright. I'm being forgiving and patient. I actually think I could be considered a good example. Because Chuck, I don't lie, but you have. And one day, here's what my faith, Frank, sincerely thank you. Your efforts to understand and to help share understanding and to help me understand with your feedback. This has been very helpful today. Yesterday, I took a day off, like I said. I'm fucked. I'm in a new city trying to reestablish myself. I walked away from everything. I didn't have a fucking choice, and I felt, right? At the time, I've been doing the best I can with what the world offers. I'm no different than anyone else. The difference is I've made a commitment to myself. Fear will not control me. I was going to say fear won't hold me back, but that's a lie. It obviously has. That's what Chuck wanted to point out.
And I think you're right.
That is
in your
not what I
choices
was.
too.
That is
Chuck,
not
don't talk
what I
over
was
me, please.
pointing.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
That
Thank
was
you,
not
Chuck.
what I was trying to point
Right.
out.
Your objection has been noted, please. Thank you.
I see where I am. Okay.
Please, Frank.
I was just going to say that you're facing, a challenge that's apparent throughout American society at this time. And by you stepping away from it and showing that you can live without fear is a huge step. And it's one of the most challenging things I've ever witnessed. I stepped away as well, but I stepped away in a different way. I stepped away where, I went to a place where I thought traditional values were more respected and I could keep my nose to the grindstone and make gains. And I saw that that wasn't going to play out in the States. And you saw that same message coming forward to you, that it was just greater and greater enslavement, no matter how hard you tried. And you deserve a place among the leaders and diplomats and these people. It's not an elite club. That's not the way the United States was established. It's supposed to be an every man's job to get in there and have his voice heard. And I respect that. a lot more than what a lot
Thank
of
you.
other people are out here doing.
Frank, thank you. Thank you for saying it. And this is what is reminding me. Well, welcome to you, Denizen.
Greetings.
The reminder for me. Yesterday, I was feeling lost and alone. And today, I chose I can't continue that. And so I sought. I prayed. I practiced what I'm sharing. I silenced my mind to go inside and find the feelings so I could understand what are the feelings I'm feeling. What is this absence, this longing that I'm seeking? It was pointed out. I'm seeking friendship. I'm seeking a little positivity being returned, and there has been. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to diminish or overlook the positive that's obviously there. But at some point, someone in my life is going to have to admit they were wrong about me. Someone at some point. Because I didn't harm anyone. I've got strangers in my life. Illumitami, he's a great guy. He's a well-known character on here. But in my life, he has no jurisdiction over me, no authority. He has no relationship to me. And Chuck, you're the same. You don't have a relationship with me. You've got a relationship with your ideas of me. And your ideas of me have not been very helpful. Because I haven't been honest. But
You're just not receiving. You're not receiving the love I'm trying to give you.
Well, Chuck, I don't know how to get you to consider you in this equation. I know you want me to think that I'm wrong about everything. I don't think you actually understand what love is.
I do a daily inventory every day in order to fix something that maybe I have overstepped my bounds, where I hurt somebody.
Did
I
you ever
try not to
consider
do
what
that.
you've done? You ever consider what you've said about me, Chuck? Even after I've
Yeah.
pointed it out to you?
Yes, I have, and I apologize to you, and I haven't called you that since. But yet you keep wanting to bring that as an axe to bury into my soul. And when I tried to share with you
Felt with
about
me.
how I related to your loss of a child, you got mad at me and blamed me for trying to make it about myself. And all I was trying to show you was there is a way, God's
Chuck,
way.
right. I'm well aware of that. This is what has been the problem between us. Okay? You assume I don't know things, and you imagine a lot of things, Chuck. That's a state of the human condition. It's the world we live in. People aren't actually present and aware. They go through these motions. They get into these habits. And Chuck, I have no doubt you may say the words. You may do those traditions every day, but if you listen, if you tried learning me, I'm telling you, you would understand you better. I'm not trying to hurt anyone when I point out the problems I'm seeing. I'm trying to help people. And I've been trying to help
I got a kid right now out there somewhere that I do not know if she is alive or dead. So I can understand the pain that you feel from that. All I was trying to do was pass on positivity in the situation that you were going through, but yet because it comes from me, it's automatically rejected.
That's you, Chuck. Again, you didn't consider the words I said. You brought it back to you to present yourself as you're not doing anything wrong. That's the story you're telling yourself.
I did not say that.
No, you didn't.
I was trying to share my experience with you so that we could get common ground.
I know you've repeated that several times, Chuck, and I've explained to you. I see the similarities between us, Chuck. I see your good qualities. What I also see, though, is a lack of purpose, a lack of awareness, and a lack of honesty, particularly in my specific personal experience. And I'm speaking honestly with you. Happy to explain, but only you can choose to understand.
Well, I'm all ears because it seems you're not receiving anything that I've given because you're butt hurt at me.
So why do you want to believe that?
Well, it's your condescending talk to me, that I'm stupid. It's always about me. It wasn't about me. It was a similar situation in order to find common ground, but you turned it against me because
Hey, Chuck, sing a different song, please. Try a different story.
does the
'Cause we've
truth
seen
hurt?
No,
The truth must hurt. Yes. Yes, the truth hurts you.
Chuck, that's not accurate.
That's very accurate.
Chuck, I'm trying to have a conversation with you, and all you want to do is keep defending yourself. Now,
I'm not defending anything. I'm just stating the obvious.
is anyone else recognizing patterns of Chuck defending? I mean, everything I say, I'm finding a disagreement from him.
Yeah, somebody give me an interpretation because maybe I'm way off here. Please help.
I would argue that you're both defending yourself and attacking the other person.
Agreed.
I would
Alright.
just say that my interpretation of what's happening right now is that Chuck intentionally or not somehow chooses a more like low-hanging fruit approach to his gaze, and as a result he's missing the loftier ideas that are trying to be reached, and that keeps pulling you back down into the mud, so to speak. And so as long as we stay down there in the lower vibrational levels, then we cannot reach the heights. And you're trying to get into the presence of divine spirit and motivation that way, and inspiration through the Lord. Whereas Chuck's focus may or may not be, and may or may not be intentionally doing so, but he just keeps pulling us back down into the dirt, which is where I don't like to hang out most of the time. I mean, you do need roots in the dirt, but you need to sometimes aspire to those more lofty ideals rather than just a self-centered focus of how is this affecting me? How are my feelings right now? And I'm not saying it's rooted in feelings entirely and that we should avoid them, but that's what I feel. I don't know if that's right or wrong.
We
What is
takes
wrong?
two though. Hold on,
Yeah,
Chuck.
what is-
we
okay.
takes two though, and Chuck and Jack have a ground level relationship. So
well, you missed
if
the
there's-
articulation of
if
my
there's
point.
any
Is that
point-
he's being pulled and
if
guided
there's any-
back that way.
if there's but it takes two. It still
Right.
takes two. No matter how
No,
much
it
you want to.
doesn't. No, it doesn't. It takes
yes,
one person to make
okay.
a choice.
It
to
also
disengage with
takes
that.
one person to finish what they're saying. If you care to, practice what you preach and listen. To
Well,
them
you're
for a
starting
second.
from a flawed premise, so I just wanted to address that. Go ahead, though.
Maybe somebody else
agree.
might disagree with you. So if you shut up, they can
I
hear it.
agree. And let's hear him out.
We takes two. That's first of all, and these two have a ground level relationship. They need to start at the ground level. There is no loftier vibration for these two to start at. So if there's no point for them for Jack to lower himself, so to speak, to Chuck's level in order to find common ground, then I don't know why he's up on this panel. We both know that
I
he's
agree.
not here to end wars. He's here to end
Right.
his war with Jack. So if you
No.
have interest in that, if you have interest in that, Jack, meet him where he's at. If not, cut him loose
Denizen.
and let's all elevate together, right?
Mhm. Okay, Denizen, I'm sorry for the interruptions. I appreciate your feedback. You missed what Frank was pointing out. While it is true, it takes two to be a we. My whole point of this live stream today is to surrender the separation, embrace the unity. We are united here at this time. I've been trying to guide the conversation more into productive areas, but it was my observation that Chuck kept dragging the conversation back to his issues.
I did address that twice. I
Okay, so,
addressed it twice
so
after
how
the
do I-
phrase "we takes two," which seemed to be difficult
all right.
for you
Well,
and Frank.
so how about this? What I heard from you is that is my best course of action.
That is the course of action you're preaching in this moment. So whatever's best, that's up to Jack. But yes, sir, correct.
Well, you didn't recognize my efforts to try and find reconciliation and resolve. Chuck didn't see my efforts to find reconciliation and resolve.
You were still asking him to step up to your level, and
Has
that's
Chuck said what he wanted? I don't understand the dynamic. I don't get it. Has Chuck stated clearly what it is that he's seeking by coming here?
reconciliation. He said it on several occasions, and
I
that
haven't
doesn't mean
heard-
Jack has to believe that. I'm just saying that's what he said.
Denizen, you're probably right. I'll accept that. But his behavior is the one that's denying reconciliation. He won't allow me to be right because he takes everything I say as an attack, and then he interrupts and defends himself or disagrees. So he's part of this experience that I've been having, as are you guys. But engaging in this nonsense from people like Illumitami and Chuck, that's why people aren't taking me seriously. So, Denizen,
Jack.
if Chuck, yeah,
I just came up quickly because I heard you said something earlier, and unfortunately I wasn't paying attention when I hit the join button. So I'm gonna leave and allow you guys to not interfere with the discussion of this dynamic. But I want to say something in support of Frank, because you're right, Dennison did miss the point. To say it takes two to make we, it also takes two to make an assault. And that's a simplistic way of looking at the problem. It almost gives a moral ambiguity where there is none. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I'll talk to you later. And I do have a question for you,
That
Jack.
didn't make any
When you have a
sense.
moment.
please and thank you.
Can you remember what you were saying before that?
If in fact Chuck is here for reconciliation, what is my incentive? Why should I even want, after what I have experienced and witnessed from that man? It's the same question I'm asking myself with Illumitami. I'm shooting myself in the foot by allowing people who don't respect me to join me. It's a public act of me disrespecting myself through
Agreed.
people. So Tommy, I see talent. Tommy, I see he's got creativity, he's got talent, he's got a fire for life. If he can calm down, he'd be an incredible ally.
He doesn't respect you though.
Neither does Chuck.
I
I don't
agree.
get any of those things from.
I think he has experience. He has a unique perspective. He's had a lot of responsibility and tragedy in his life. He has a good sense of humor. He's very funny. Chuck has good qualities too.
I don't
Being
get
able
to
to being understanding you and respecting you, I don't think are necessarily on that list. But this is the loop you've been going through, at least for as long as I've known you. I don't know about prior to, which is you recognize these people don't really respect you or your vision, but yet you continue to reach out to them, and that does now. Again, this is a question for what Jack wants. There's value in that, as you have stated. It just is antithetical to what you and Frank were talking about 2.5 minutes ago, right? Putting Chuck backstage is along the lines of the spirit of what you guys were talking about a few minutes ago. Otherwise, reaching out to Chuck, putting yourself in his perspective and giving him the benefit of the doubt would all be required for reconciliation, whether he's right or wrong. You would almost have to live in a state of wrongness, in Chuckness, in order to bridge that gap. You can't be in a state of Jackness. Chuck isn't there. So, again, what do you want? What is your goal? Is it to make these people here on YouTube understand where you're coming from? Or is it to, as Frank says, kind of, talk about more lofty ideas and moving forward? Because you're not going to be talking about high level lofty ideas about ending wars with Chuck at this time. That would take years of you and Chuck doing you and Chuck kind of stuff, right? Not Jack's goals kind of stuff.
If he would be willing to listen with a mind that is open and a heart that cares to understand. Anyone can understand anyone. That's the path. Open the mind with a willingness and a heart to know, and we can know anything. The answers will make sense. But the ego, we live in a society of insanity. Insanity has been normalized. Insanity is confusion, normalized confusion within the mind. Donald Trump is demonstrating patterns of egoic delusions. He's out of control, as is much of the world. The world is out of control. I'm not. I've given my control to God, okay, to love. I live by what is true. I live and die by what is true. The fact that people haven't found value in what I'm saying, I'll accept part of the blame for sure. I realize I've been making myself look like a fool by entertaining fools, people who don't have a purpose or even a willingness to create a purpose. But that's the community of this online world, man. So I tried fitting in. I tried getting profane and swearing and yelling at people with Paul Unslaved and the others, and I've realized it doesn't work. So Denizen, what you pointed out, and then I'll shut up, what you pointed out, that my interactions with Chuck are diminishing me. I'm not living the way that I claim I want to be.
Yeah, I just circle back around real quick and say you're better off not doing that. I believe I was one of the ancient Greeks I quoted earlier. It was a couple of days ago, but it simply stated, to paraphrase it, was even though an evil is small or trifling, we should still not do it. And even though a good is difficult or challenging, we should absolutely do it. So you have to be very careful and very wary of those things. And I just thought I would mention it.
What would Jesus say to Chuck?
Listen.
Jesus would tell Chuck to listen. You'd think that would be the proactive course at this point. Without miracles.
I gotta agree with that, yeah.
without miracles, without divine intervention. You think the next step in this relationship is for Chuck to listen?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe. Going forward a little bit, I think a moment ago you talked about the craziness of the world, and it is definitely insane. And I think part of the activity is just so that these opportunistic charlatans can seize more and more of the wealth for themselves. I mean, in 2019, the world, and the United States especially, hit the highest production capacity that we've ever seen on planet, in recorded history, that we've ever seen on planet Earth. And so what did they do? They murdered millions and millions of cows. They slaughtered millions and millions of chickens. Now, they had their reasons for doing whatever they did, but the production capacity was so high that we could have literally, it was estimated, fed the world 10 times over. So why this mass production, and at the same time coupled with mass starvation and not distributing the resources evenly among people. And I don't want to get into any of the philosophies or isms or socialism or communism. I'm just saying, Jack's pointing out something that's absolutely 100% true. There's a kind of fucking high level insanity going on in the world that needs to be stopped. And I think part of it is just the paradigm shift and the softening and the malleability of spirit and accepting some of these, like I mentioned a moment ago, loftier than thou ideas.
I would think that it's upon the person with the greater capacity for listening and understanding to be the one to do the listening and understanding primarily. So from that perspective, given the way you described your relationship with Chuck, I would think it's you that needs to do the listening more than it is Chuck. But if that's not the case, how do you get Chuck to listen?
Well, this is where, again, I didn't get to explain my answer. I don't think Chuck understands how to listen. I don't think most people do, because listening is not, it's not practice, but that's
Do you know how to fix those kind of people, and do you want to?
Yes.
Well, I
Of
mean,
course.
then what does that look like? Because that's obviously what your relationship with Chuck needs.
With a lack of willingness, nothing I offer will be received. You've witnessed it.
I
Now-
have. That's why, like, not wasting time on it seems like the most Jack course of action now.
Yeah.
I agree. That's what I was going to say, is that there's so many people out there in the world. You know, people are a dime a dozen. And if people don't agree with your cause, just fucking cut them. Like, who cares? Just even if it's just one major disagreement, like if it's going to hold, just taking like this stream, for example, like we could have had productive conversations about what potentials we have to reach these causes but instead we've talked about disputes between you and Illumitami or you and Chuck. It's been a total waste of what could have been useful time.
Oh, I don't feel I wasted my time. So here, maybe Chuck doesn't want to listen. I do want to listen. I showed all the signs of trying to understand. Maybe Dennison can help Jack communicate to me.
I'd appreciate it. The goal for us all is to learn how to be. How do you want to be? What I want to be is God-like, Christ-like, fearless, loving, faithful, at peace. I want to be joyful and content. It's what we all want. It's what we all are. And it's what we all need. We all need connection, but the ego mind doesn't shut down because we live in a world of confusion. And so the only way to shut the ego mind down is to listen.
So my question is, how do you know what I want already?
I understand you, Hank.
But I claimed in this very show that I didn't want freedom, I wanted power. So how am I? What is my confusion that I can't feel what I feel that I want is incorrect, but what you feel that I want is correct? How do you get the piece in the whole? So
Because I know what is and is not possible.
So are you claiming that you know me better than I know myself? Is
That sounded poorly. Yes, Hank, I claim to know you better than you know yourself. And if you listen to me and understand me, you'll understand you like I understand you. You are a man of today. You've lived and walked a different life than me, but you feel things and you think things, and you deserve to have a glorious life, a life filled with love and appreciation, a life with accomplishment and achievement. Those are the things for all of us.
Excellent. Denizen, activate that translation then.
Sure. Rephrase your question though.
So Jack, I guess I thought I heard Jack say that he knows me better than I know myself.
Correct.
And yes, so is that what he means by that, or what? Like
Yeah.
phrased in a way. Oh, okay, really means that.
That yes, there are commonalities within humans, uh, and one of those commonalities is to bury certain aspects of that, of the human condition and personality, and by being honest with those and bringing them to the forefront, you can examine, what it is, basically your past, your current, and your future in the current perspective, and then get a gauge for where it is you've been, where it is you are, and where it is you're going.
Yes. So what I want to reflect back to Jack is that I feel that he's confused. He can't tell the difference between himself and myself, which is why he can come to that conclusion, which I would say is absurd.
Well, I mean, projection is common. It's technically how human beings attempt to interact with one another, unfortunately, because we lack greater capability. That doesn't mean there isn't any value in it. And I think what Jack notices when he's in this position on this panel, and he's trying to share what he believes is the truth of God with the rest of the world, he can tell right away if you're someone who's coming with an open hand, a closed fist, or closed eyes. That's what's going to come across right away. And also others who may come with open arms, they have to anticipate and understand that this is not necessarily your position or your relationship with Jack. This show isn't about you, right? It's about living without fear and ending and exposing all secrets and ending wars. It's about Jack's vision and Jack's journey. And I don't. That's not necessarily a terrible thing from my perspective, but it doesn't always mean that it's going to be conducive to whatever your egoic motives and agenda is when you come on the panel. And you can like Jack, you can agree with a lot of Jack's ideas, and still have your own agenda. And that might not necessarily, again, there may be a clash there for obvious reasons, right? Does that make sense, Hank?
Yes, it does. So in response to that, I would say Jack would be more at peace with the world if he got his confusion and understand that we're only oneself in certain contexts. From the context of God, we're oneself. But the context of man, we're multiple selves. So if he gets,
I actually agree. This is where you and I split away from Jack, and we have more agreement, even though we start off agreeing with Jack. I actually agree with you on that. But that's not Jack's philosophy.
And I would only disagree, Hank, that you said that Jack can't distinguish himself from you. I don't understand that. Can you explain a little more, Hank?
Yeah. So the idea when he says he knows me better than I know myself, he's asserting he's ignoring that I'm a different person than him. Then assuming I'm the same thing as him, then he gets very frustrated that I don't behave the way he expects me to behave, and that causes him dissonance with the world. He can't be at peace if he has this attitude. Because
maybe I'm wrong, but maybe
he's not seeing me for me.
Maybe he's saying this just in a general sense and not singling you out individually, and just human nature is what he's responding to. I don't know though, Jack. What do you have in response to Hank?
I'm speaking about generalities in human nature. And despite your disagreement, there is a unity. There is a connection to us all. We are fractals of light and life and consciousness. We're just small pieces, insignificant yet very critical pieces of the whole. So we are history being created, being lived. When we're honest, we are the living truth. And Hank, this is the only thing I expect from people is honesty. People say they want to understand me, and then they show me signs where they clearly do not. Hank, what do you believe I am confused about? Because I allege you have the confusion.
So you are confused that you think everyone wants freedom. I know in my heart that I want power, and I will achieve it by training really hard. But you then assert that you know me better than I know myself, and I don't want what I actually want.
No, you
And then,
want what you cannot have. This is the ego lies. The lies we tell ourselves and each other is that we have power, that we have safety, we have security. It's bullshit. It's all by God's grace. It's all by God's will.
yes, and
We
God
were,
wills me and my ability to train myself and be a
yep.
better person. So
And